We are super proud to announce that Stay Plugged In is now sponsored by HyperX for our online events for the month of August. Prizes will include a Cloud Stinger wireless headset and a Cloud Stinger wired headset for our Turbo Tuesday tournaments for the first and second winning teams. And then for our Valorant tournaments, which are every other week on Thursdays and Fridays, that will be the Alloy Origins Core Mechanical Gaming Keyboard, HX Red, and the Pulsefire FPS Pro Gaming Mouse, which the keyboard is for first place and the mouse is for second place.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spincast. Today, we are joined by Tim and Noah. Tim is Noah's dad, and Noah just competed in the first Charlotte High School Esports League and came in second place in the Rocket League division. Really exciting stuff there. So today, we're going to dive into what esports looks like at a student age and also what needs to develop and improve to bring youth esports to the next level and to be that mainstream kind of outreach that we all want it desperately to be in developing it. So without any further ado, Tim and Noah, go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell us where your passions in esports started, and then kind of how that carried you to where your interests and passions lie now. I'll let you go first, Tim.
Oh, well, thanks. Appreciate it. My name's Tim, and I am a elementary school teacher, and I've got 3 sons. They're all in different places in regards to technology and school. I've got 2 now in college at Winthrop. Both are at Winthrop. And then my last one is still at Fort Mill High School. And, I was never a gamer. I think, for me, I grew up playing the Atari 2600, and I really liked my Atari. And things have come a long way from just the joystick. And, so as the boys got older, we would I think I started you guys on my Atari 2600. We learned how to blow inside the cartridges and stick them in so that they would work. And then, we got a Nintendo, and, the Wii was probably our first family unit, because it does bring the family together. And then it was Halo. Did we go to a Halo opening night?
We did for Halo 4.
Halo 4, yes. So
My heart.
So for whatever reason, it was our first mature game, and I don't even know, how old were you guys?
Pretty young.
Yeah, you were still in elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were still, so we had to look when Halo 4 came out. But anyhow, we had the Xbox, or we were getting the Xbox, not really sure, and when Halo came out, I was like, I like science fiction. I wanted to play a kind of an updated game with my kids instead of Wii, right?
Yeah.
And so we started playing Halo, and maybe might have been your uncle as well. He was really into these kind of things, and we would the Star Wars game that was on the Xbox, or it was the PlayStation.
Battlefront?
Yes.
Yeah.
We stayed up all night and completed all of Battlefront, and I said, this looks like fun. That was my brother-in-law. And so then we got Halo, and I started playing Halo with them, and it was a lot of fun. And, probably within less than a week, maybe the minute the game was bought, I knew that I was lost. There were too many controls. And as much as I wanted to be that dad who could, do everything, I was like, no way. Both him and his brothers, particularly his younger brother, they knew what they were doing, and they were definitely carrying me everywhere we went. And so, that was kind of it. And then at that point, I tried to play a lot. Probably the only thing I was maybe this is funny. For a while, I was really good at Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Okay, like when they were in 3rd grade, I was smoked them. Okay, they were having to play like this because they couldn't hold it rather. But we got one of the new versions of Guitar Hero, and I can play expert, but Noah's super expert. I mean, I would go up to play with him, and we're talking drums, any instrument on there.
The World Tour.
Yeah. So
I love that one.
but again, it was time with my kids, so it was really cool.
For sure.
That we were able to do that. But I quickly realized, I'm out. In regards to what? In regards to being able to do the same thing they're doing. And then so that's kind of where the gaming started. And then I don't know, Noah, why don't you tell us who you are? But how did you get into Rocket League?
Oh, well, I had first started playing FIFA with Sweet Stuff, who's one of my teammates for the high school league.
Yeah.
and we were like Division 3, and he started playing a new game, Rocket League, when I was in like just out of elementary school, and he said, "You should try this game out. It'll be fun." So that's how my life got wasted with him. So that just started going, and then one day I figured out that I watched, I think it was Jazer, as my first person watching play Rocket League. He was doing like all these crazy flips off the ceiling, off the sidewall, getting his flip out of nowhere, seems to me. And then I was like, well, that's what I want to do. That sounds awesome. I can't wait to be that good at a game. And so then I pushed my dad to go to RLCS and to watch the pros play, and then I got really involved with Cloud9. They were my favorite team, and sadly they're not a team anymore. But
Well,
that's
in
pretty much how that
Rocket
started.
League, they're not
in
a
Rocket
team,
League, they're
yeah.
not a team anymore. Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
but that's how pretty much started for me.
Yeah, so, Noah said it sounds like it was just all that smooth, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was just snap, snap, snap. There was probably no
Yeah.
hurdles.
Nope, not
No long talks with dad and mom. of,
No,
what are you doing?
None at all. And I
No
actually,
grinding. You just woke up and were great at the game.
Yeah.
Even on the way up here, I was like, I don't think I even know how you got into Rocket League, man. I didn't, because even though he says all this, it didn't enter my vocabulary, my circle, till it was probably a year and a half ago, January 2019 or so. And Noah says he wants to go to RLCS. And I asked you in the car, I'll ask you here, why all of a sudden did you want to go to RLCS? Like, what was the carrot that was in your head that, hey, Dad might take us here?
Oh, well, since it was in New Jersey, it was right next to New York, which none of us ever been to. So I was like, you get to go to New York, and we just all gotten into the musical Hamilton. So that's where he was buried, and we got to see the duel versus Burr. And I was like, you know what? 2-1, we get to New Jersey Rocket League, and we get to go to New York, and it'll be fun.
What a sales pitch.
Yeah.
And
that's
it was
smart.
he was long thinking, because he had been pushing. Hamilton been out for a long time.
He had a whole PowerPoint presentation.
He
it sounds like.
did. It was part of this master plan. Hamilton been out for a long time, and he's been like saying, "Dad, you need to listen to this." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll get to it." And then I put it on for a run, and 3 hours later, right, I come back and said, "Man, that was really good." And so, he had pushed the Hamilton angle, and then he started talking Rocket League. And at this time, I'm like, okay, sounds good. It sounds like a good summer to maybe go up to New York. This is a year ago.
Yeah.
We're in a different place now. And when he said, it's this Rocket League competition, I'm like, what does it look like? What is it? Tickets are going on sale. I don't know where I was, but we didn't have school or something. I can't remember, but I went online and saw you can get tickets for the whole family for pretty cheap, $50 or so a person. So the only hard part would be actually staying there.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna stay? And I did not buy the tickets. And I said, yeah, I saw they went online today. And I was like, and I said, well, I needed more convincing. I mean, I really did. I was like, do we really do this? My wife and I are both teachers, so it's not like we're just running in the money. And Noah's like told me more about it, and he seemed really engaged in this. And like he said, he was really into Cloud9. He really knew the players, and he really knew that this is something he wanted to do. And so it wasn't snap your fingers and Dad paid, let's go. He wasn't begging either. He was just putting his case out there that here it is. And so we went to RLCS, and that's where everything kind of changed for me.
Yeah.
I was about to say, seeing it on that scale, I mean, probably from both of your perspectives, probably solidified your interest to a certain degree, but then also for you that was probably the first inkling you had where you're like, oh, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Because I'm involved in it, and I don't think I even fully grasped like what the esports, like the capacity of esports was until I saw for live events or like things happening. And so I can imagine in person that like seeing your kid be interested in this game for so long, and then eventually seeing the actual event itself, probably for you lended some sort of validity towards like what was actually happening.
Validity is definitely true, particularly when it's not just your family, right? This isn't just your son, but we would show up an hour and a half, 2 hours, standing on the corner of, New Jersey, Newark, sorry.
Yeah.
And in a line of a couple hundreds of people.
Yeah.
So it's not just my teenage son doing typical teenage stuff. No, the whole gambit was there in regards to the types of people and, individuals, and, they just like any other sporting event. They were painted, they were wearing their favorite jerseys, that kind of thing. When the players would come by, and the players would come by, right, on their way in, people would get excited and want to take pictures with them. This was a real event.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I say it like that because I'm not sure people grasp, I'm not sure parents grasp that this is a real event, like any sporting event. And for me, I didn't grasp it till we went to this event and I saw the lights, saw the show. And you might say, but they're just, 6 computers down there on this. People, actually, we are record world holders.
Elaborate.
Yeah, please.
So for the one that we went to, I think it was one of the finals or the semifinals match was NRG versus, I think it was Vitality, and
This was last year?
Yeah.
it was either last year or 2 years ago.
I think it was Energy
Yeah.
and Vitality.
Yeah. And we just started doing a wave because, Justin was popping off and doing all this crazy stuff, and it just kept going. And the game ended, we didn't stop. And then the announcer came out, I was like, all I get to do is so tomorrow, keep the wave going. And this was the championship Sunday. Keep the wave going and you'll have the world record. So then the next day we got all set up. The announcers are like, all right, start now, and then we'll just keep going. So we had it for like 30 minutes. We just went in a wave around the stadium over and over again.
So world
Pretty
record
awesome.
holders for longest indoor wave.
That's awesome. At a Rocket League tournament.
At a
Not a
Rocket
football
League.
game.
At
Yeah.
a Rocket League
Not a
tournament.
football game, not a
Yes.
hockey game.
Yeah.
So, and that was the
Rocket
other
League.
thing. I mean, I'll have to tell you, I'm like, 3 days? This event's going to take 3 what's going to happen? And then Noah started explaining to me the brackets, and it was like at that point, I really started to understand that, Noah not just invested in Cloud9, not just invested in Rocket League, but he knew all the different players and some of the interplay and who had played with who. Just like any sports person loves their the batting average of somebody or the winning streak of the longest basketball teams, which is the Lakers maybe still.
Not quite.
Oh
But yeah.
Yeah.
At one point it was, yes.
All right, 3-peat. That's all I remember, man. 3-peat.
Yeah. No, that did happen. That is
Okay.
true.
That's where we're from. We're from Southern California originally. So that made, that made the difference, and that actually opened the door for the conversations that we would have after. So, because at that point, Noah wasn't pushing for much. It was, I really just want to go and see some of my favorite players play.
For sure.
It's down the street, 10 hours away. And that was the thing, right? I mean, where has it been before all this?
Like Las Vegas, Vancouver, and
LA.
Madrid, LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going those places.
A little farther.
I
Madrid
can't-
would be nice.
It would be nice, but can't pack the family of 5 up and get there as easily.
It's a hefty plane
uh,
ticket.
Yeah, so, Noah did market it well with the Hamilton, seeing New York and all that kind of stuff. So it ended up being a great trip.
Yeah. So Noah, what was the defining moment for you at RLCS? Did anything like spark of like, wow, this is how big it could be? And did that like spark you to really like drive yourself to like heighten your performance, or like what came out of it for you that you
Aside
took
from
away?
Justin.
Yeah.
It was before the finals as well. And Cloud9 was playing on Neo Tokyo, and Squishy has scored, I think, one of his most insane double reads off the backboard, where he just done a full 360 upside down read and just destroyed the enemy team. And I was like, the crowd went wild, and you could see Squishy smiling and Game Making Torment. They were like patting his back, and like that was the moment where I was like, if I had do something like that in that big of a stage, that would be awesome. Get like all that love just for like confirmation that we just did something great, even though we didn't win or we didn't even get that far. If you score a goal, that's like pretty nutty. At least on LAN, people are gonna recognize that and be like, "This is awesome."
For sure. And I know, I mean, both from firsthand experience interacting with you at a couple of the events we've run, that I guess probably jump-started your like professional competitive career to a certain extent. So I know you've played in our Queen City Rocket League Invitational. You played in our high school league, I know we talked about earlier. And then talk about kind of now where your career as a competitor in Rocket League is kind of taking you.
Well, I'm going to be on the Winthrop team for Rocket League, and hopefully if I can do well enough, and I want to at least, my one goal is to beat Akron, because when we went to the Queen City Invitational, we got put against, I think it was the top 2 teams, it was Akron and one of the other teams, just
LSU.
because of weird circumstances. And
Or that's how brackets work.
yeah,
Seating. Yeah.
seeding, yeah, because we were like last or something. They were, of course, first. And they've like won like 3 years in a row, I think, for the CRL. And I was like, I want to beat them. Because like if we can do something, especially being like a new team, if we can do something as good as beat Akron, like maybe we'll get noticed.
For sure.
And then like once I graduate, or even maybe before I graduate, like people will start seeing like me as a player and be like, maybe I want them on my team.
So is the goal for you to like be a professional Rocket League player?
That would be an amazing goal.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
that's awesome. And so how does, I guess my question is, so you've competed both in our online events, obviously given everything that's going on with the current situation, online is kind of the method of doing a lot of these things, and you competed both at our LAN event as well. How do those environments and those levels of competition differ from, like, for example, like you, Solar, and Sweet Stuff going into ranked 3s and just grinding that to hit high enough GC? Like, where's the difference for you? Like, what do you notice as a competitor, like the different environment?
Definitely at LAN, there are way more nerves because especially at the Queen City, they were like right behind us, like watching us play, and like I could definitely feel that. But I just wanted to do great. I know that Ethan had never played on a PC before, so that was new for him, and his controls are a little messed up as well.
That'd be Sweet Stuff.
Sweet Stuff.
Got it.
He definitely had a lot more nerves than me and Solar did, but like once you got used to the nerves, and once you realize that these people are here to watch me play, then you're like, all right, well, time to just play some Rocket League and enjoy my life.
And I was there as a parent, shepherding or bringing them along, and to see that atmosphere was completely different than just sitting and grinding at their 3 different homes. It was. I mean, again, it was a local event, but the lights were on. Multiple stations were set up with multiple games going at once. All these college teams there in their jerseys. It was a real event. And like he's saying, the pressure was there, and you could see it in their eyes, both the aha, like, wow, and the hunger of,
For sure.
I want this.
Yeah, and that was actually me and you. That's when you and I first had a conversation. I don't think I had recognized it was you until we had you back in a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And probably likewise for you, but I remember because I came and found you guys because I saw Dragon Army listed on the roster sheet.
Yeah.
And I was the one that built the scheduling and the brackets and everything for that tournament. And I remember seeing Dragon Army, and first thing popped into my head was Ender's Game, and I was like, I gotta go talk to these guys, make sure that's what it is. And that was one of the first things that you talked about, was seeing that environment and seeing what everything looked like and how different it was even for you to be in that. And that's one of the things I remember you pointed out to me. You were like, yeah, this, like, you can tell this feels different, because you do have that level of where like everything is like super connected, and like you have one team playing against another team, everybody in jerseys, like you said, everybody standing right behind each other. And I remember that was one of the first things that you pointed out to me was, you were like, I know, I can tell they're nervous. He's like, and I'm just trying to tell them that, like, this is what competition looks like. This is a teaching moment. Yeah. Like, no matter what the outcome is, like, this is something you're going to be able to take things away from because of like the environment that you're in and the level of competition that you're currently competing in.
Yeah, I would say that was probably the best teacher outside of RLCS that we had. No one knew it was good. Noah has been pushing, reaching out to coach sides with Winthrop probably since RLCS. Yeah, because they have Overwatch and
League of Legends.
League of Legends teams, and now they're setting up Rocket League and Valorant teams. And, Noah knew this is what he wanted to do. Noah also knew that he wanted to go to Winthrop. So it might be a rare situation, but he started, not texting, but DMing the coach and saying, have you thought about putting a Rocket League team together? I would like to see a Rocket League team together. I enjoy Rocket League. And he's going to pursue, it looks like he's going to pursue Rocket League, but currently is also, looking into music is one of his other passions, and Winthrop is a great school for that. And so, he was already headed there, and it's like, and the possibilities are there, right? I mean, if you've already got these other esports teams And to me, it just seems like Rocket League fits esports like probably no other sport. I love watching the other games, but I can follow Rocket League, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Super
and
accessible.
and that was the thing, right? Going to RLCS, I get it, ball down, the other side, and like Noah said, some cool tricks in between that are for purpose. They're not just watch me do a cool trick, but
Yep.
because
Sometimes they are.
well, okay.
Not everybody's squishy muffins.
Because of the cool physics and all that kind of business, it totally makes sense. But that teaching experience of being at the Queen City event was huge. Like I said, watching them struggle,
Yeah.
was huge. There's something different, right? And I would love to hear Noah speak a little more on this as well as I set it up. Something different, like you said, about sitting in front of your computer, not knowing who's on the other end, and grinding with your friends and being frustrated, put your device away and leave for a bit, to being there where there's 16 other teams that you're going to be up against and you're going to physically rub up against as you walk past them. So you can't be a total jerk. You've got to learn that skill. And I'll even transfer that to the online, right? Watching them prepare for what just happened, the most recent high school event, their nerves were at a different place. Can you say any more about that, or have I said it all?
I mean, you pretty much hit it spot on, but yeah, definitely seeing, because right before we went on, I was watching LSU play. I was like right behind them, and like these guys are really good.
Yeah.
And like I already knew, because I've watched Akron play since like a few years ago when I've been watching CRL, and they are also like most everyone there is like super high level, like not yet pro level, but you can definitely tell they're getting there.
For sure.
And playing against them, like I knew it was going to be a challenge, but like since it was live and I could like see them, it was more like, if I can just prove myself, if I can just score one goal against them, then I'll be like, all right, well, this is something that I can accomplish eventually, and with a team that's practiced a lot, especially on PCs. So that was really helpful for me.
What was your result again? Did you won a game in losers bracket or no?
We didn't. I think we might have won one game.
Well,
I'm
one
not quite
game,
sure though.
yeah.
Not the entire thing.
I know you lost the first matchup. I believe you played LSU first, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. I think so.
It was one of those top three, which would have been
yeah.
Akron, LSU, and I believe the number 3 was Florida State. I want to say,
Which you didn't play. Then.
which I don't think you played.
Yeah,
them.
we didn't.
But I remember because I remember I followed you guys a little bit again. The affinity to Dragon Army. I was like, I'm paying attention to this team, where they're going, and we had a running spreadsheet of like where that each station was kind of filling out as we go on a Google sheet, and we could see like what the results are, what things are happening at that moment. And I remember watching you guys, because we gave you a 32 seed, because you guys were the very last team to sign up for it, and this was mainly a collegiate event, but we had reached out to some local talent, and obviously you guys came running. And I remember following you guys a little bit and kind of seeing your progression through everything. And I mean, you had some like 22 seeds that got knocked out back to back. And I'm pretty sure you guys actually ended up staying a little bit longer than that. I think you won one game in losers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a little curious. We've been talking a lot about, these events, right? And they exist very sporadically right now. Even at the professional scene, esports is one of the few industries that has been built top down, not bottom up. So think through this question for me. What possibilities do you think would be available if, the Charlotte High School Esports League was available since you were in 9th grade, or even a middle school league that you could play in when you were in 6th grade, and how that kind of prepares you to like handle nerves or handle big time moments? What do you think that format could bring to you if it was a continuous ongoing thing for many years as you progress towards trying to get recruited to play collegiate?
So I had started doing band, which was, with solos and playing in front of 1,000 people in like grand nationals, which was, nerves were there, but when it's just 3 people compared to like 103, then it's a lot more stressful. So like if we had started in 9th grade, I had for sure Ethan or Sweet Stuff would have been more involved throughout the years, instead of like doing other things like soccer and a bunch of stuff with his church. He must have been more involved. And if I had started 9th grade instead of like the last year I was in high school, then I would have been way more used to the nerves. I would have been probably more mature in like talking to other people, like getting things set up about like scrims or like just fighting other people or other teams. So that's how that would affected me, at least.
Yeah, I've seen
Awesome.
that. I've seen that frustration as over the last year, as he's gone onto the Discord and tried to get with other people to play these specific events. So not just out on Twitter saying, "Hey, who wants to play?" but actual, trying to pull your team together. That experience is missing. And to have years of experience, just like a football player would, or a soccer player would, or volleyball, tennis, whatever it is, to have that years of experience would be extremely beneficial as we move into a collegiate career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what those provide is just a lot of confidence, right? Knowing that you've done it before leads basically right into doing it then, right? I remember when I used to play football in high school, and, years of practice of baseball and football mainly, and playing on bigger stages and playing in front of, even just 30, 40, 50 people, built up to us being in the semifinals for state championship against 10,000 people were watching, right? The nerves never really hit. The only nerves was like, I need to beat Weddington, right? The people kind of surrounding me, it was like just like background noise. But in esports, it's quite the opposite, on average, right? Way more on average than in traditional sports. So that's exactly what we're trying to create, and we are creating to provide that platform. And then my next question would be, for you as a dad and an educator, what are those steps that you think like the esports industry and the society and community surrounding it need to take to bring that to fruition? So, it's accepted in a mainstream fashion where, the news does coverage on it. Parents say, when your son or daughter comes up to you and say, "Hey, I want to play Rocket League competitively for my school team," like, okay, awesome. When's the interest meeting? Where do I sign up? Right. What are those steps that you want to see kind of be implemented to make this become a reality for all students, to let them pursue their passions and, allow that dedication to flow naturally?
Yeah, I think the novelty needs to wear off. I think there's this sense that it's a passing fad. I talked about my experience with the Atari 2600 when I was in elementary school. I'm 47. Video games are not a passing fad, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
true.
I mean, they are here, and we all know, when Pac-Man was the thing, Pac-Man Fever song was out. I mean, video games have encompassed our culture. So this seems long in coming, that we, it shouldn't be a novelty of, oh yeah, that's that esports thing. It really needs to, start to be seen as something that gives all the same kind of feeling as an organized sport does. Like we were just talking about, that is missing, as we just mentioned. We need to somehow get across to parents. Like I said, I did not jump on board, because even me, having played a lot of games with my kids, they were still just games. It took me this RLCS event to go, oh, there's actual casters that are sitting in a booth and they're describing play-by-play just like any football game.
Right.
Just like, anything else. And they're casting or announcing the event just like anything else. And so that stigma of video games are passing, you can't do anything with it. I think we need to change that. I'm not exactly sure how. I think we definitely need to get parents to start to see that, to ask their kids. I mean, I'm a pretty involved parent in regards to wanting to know what my kids are doing, and we do a lot together. We go to tons of movies. We do play a lot of tabletop games. And like I said, I tried to play Rocket League. I'm just going to leave it there.
What's his rank?
Probably not even bronze. He's probably not even ranked.
Oof.
Oof. Throwing shade
Come
right
on,
at your
come
dad. You're sitting next to him.
Man.
Basically,
You know he's
here-
your ride home, right?
here's what happens when somebody comes over who doesn't know how to play. They just get on my account, is what they do. So that you can just destroy Dad's account. Thanks. So if I have any rank at all, it's to somebody who came over to the house. And we have invested in that. We're a pretty technological savvy family. Like that's some of my degrees are in technology, so I know technology is important. So I made sure that my kids were set up, that they had the devices they needed. But the big thing was after the Queen City event, and we saw that everybody was on PCs, and Noah's been playing on an Xbox. It was like, wow, there's a difference.
For sure.
Just like, having the right equipment for any game, sport is important. So starting to invest in that to say, wow, we need to get you a real computer if you're going to compete. So that was a huge step. And so again, another learning curve, having gone to an event and see that these college players all know what to do. Right?
Yep.
Someone has brought them to the table and said, this is when you sit down, you've got 5 minutes to set up, you're good to go. That was a total new experience to these guys. They were like, they knew what to do, but at the same time,
They didn't have a routine,
no,
right?
there was nothing like that. So from a parental perspective, parents really do need to not just ask what their kids are doing, but to say, the validity that this could go somewhere. And I think having collegiate sports is the start. And when I say start, if you pull up CRL and you pull up esports teams, not even just CRL, you'll see that every major school from Harvard to whatever has a esports team.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They do. They've invested in these. Many have multiple. ABC teams.
Yep, especially in Rocket League because there's only 3 players. So.
Correct, where other teams have a fuller team.
Mm-hmm.
I think UNCC is like a G team. Like
Yeah.
They have like, they have like 7 or 8 teams.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane. And they're all GCs. It's unreal.
And so, and again, like you said, it's kind of trickling down. Instead of maybe institutions, high school, middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it does start with a club.
Yeah.
We're running, I say we're, like I've got any say in this, but I have an affinity for, Fort Mill School District, for Fort Mill High School, because that's where my kids went. And as Noah and Ethan graduate, there's one more student there, Dominic. And I'm like, okay, Dominic, what are we going to do? How are we going to get more Fort Mill? Because I want to see him and others compete in your high school, like what you call it, the
High School Esports League.
the Charlotte High School Esports League, which of course isn't just Charlotte high schools, but
The greater area.
It's where you guys are based. What an opportunity! And I think that's the problem. There hasn't been the opportunity.
Right.
So as we're talking this out loud, I'm like, that's what needs to happen as the opportunity there. And I think it's really hard. And here's what's hard, right? If you're a business to some degree, or you are, and it's hard to keep putting up an event and try to get the word out.
Yeah.
If there's no support system.
Right.
So, we heard about it and we jumped on it, and we ended up having how many teams that time?
32
Was there really?
at the Rocket League Invitational.
No,
No,
for
high
High
school
School
league.
League.
The high
there's
school
Sorry.
league.
8
There were
Rocket
8
League.
teams. Sorry.
8.
Yep.
But there should be 32.
There were 16 across both
Yep.
games. Yeah.
Yeah, but there should be 32. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know how many high schools alone are in Charlotte,
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
but there's a lot.
Yeah.
And in Fort Mill there's 3 right now. And in Rock Hill, there's that many. I mean, the sphere of influence is there.
Yep.
For sure.
And again,
And-
that's just our local area.
Exactly.
So having those events, I think, is it, so that parents can see what it's really all about. Because if you're waiting till college, I mean, I feel real blessed that, we've had this opportunity with Noah, but not everybody's going to go to an RLCS event. Not
No.
everybody is going to do that. But if they could see their son or daughter start with a club in middle school and start to see this play together, and then transition that into an actual sport in high school. Again, I'd love to see it as a sport starting in middle school.
Yeah.
Yep.
I teach 5th grade, and I've had students say that they're, grand champ, that they're playing
That's
Rocket
unreal.
League. So you're
Yeah.
11, you're 11, you're 11 years old. We should,
They're
not
beating
we,
me up.
those parents should be capitalizing on it.
Yeah,
And
sure.
instead of saying, oh my goodness, I've wasted time, it's like, no, you've actually built a skill that could get you into the college you're looking to get into.
I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the things that you said earlier. I know you kind of made it as a passing joke. You're like, well, that's how I got to like waste all this time on Rocket League. And it's like, if you really think about it, and I mean, this goes back to what you were talking about with like how one thing kind of leads to the other. It is a domino, right? Like you found Rocket League just by happenstance, but it wasn't until you got to see RLCS that you knew you wanted to compete and you knew it was a real thing. Then you got to see the Queen City Rocket League Invitational, and you were like, oh, I need a PC. And you were like, he needs a PC. And then from one thing leads to another, and now all of a sudden we're at the point that you are able to compete at that next level, and it's taking you to the point that you can go to college and do that as a thing. And that's one of the things that you're doing in college, is competing in Rocket League. And one thing kind of led to the other, but it wasn't you in high school being like, let me spend $1,000 on a computer. It was you being like, oh, this is a viable thing. And I recognize this because A happened, then B, then C, then D, and you down the line is that domino. And that's all it took for you to be like, oh, this is something that I can support and like put my energy behind and like support for my kid to do.
And I'll be honest, it was a hard sell.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I'm talking the computer, and here's why. I am a Mac person. I'm a Mac fan. I am Macintosh, everything. Why in the world would you want anything else? It is the creative machine. I can go on and on, right? So Apple all the way. There's not a gaming machine yet that Apple has put out. Nope. And so it really, for some degree, broke my heart to say, okay, but it's what he needed. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I'm not being facetious about it being a hard sell, because if I'm dropping $1,000 or $2,000, it's going to be on the top of the line Macintosh, where, you know, like I said, you're cutting movies, you're doing those things, which I know you can do on a PC. But that's not my arena. So sure. It's been a new experience to have PCs in the house, because his younger brother has one too. And to watch them, and it's been great. I mean, I don't think enough can be said too about the relationships that can be built through this, you know, game. And maybe that's it, right? Some of the older crew needs to understand, particularly the parents, this is their social arena now.
Yep.
You have a headphone on. I'm like, who are you talking to? And he said, oh, I'm talking to so-and-so, you know. And again, my son's an adult now, but when they're younger, you definitely want to be more on top of how that scenario is playing out. But at the same time, they're building real relationships. He's getting on at the same time as his friend to make sure that they can play together so that they can build their skill up together. Yep. They're talking and laughing, and, you know, Discord has come up over the last 5 to 7 years. That's now been a place to continue that relationship and rivalry with friends.
Yep.
And to build new ones. It's been real fun to watch the most recent event, the Charlotte event that we just put on, the high school one, because they were all in the same Discord together. So, you know, they were able to say, oh, there's another player I could play with. So to build that community is huge. So they're not just flangeling out there on Twitter or Instagram, which they don't have because most of them are too young or don't care, that there's an actual dedicated server within Discord that brings them all together.
Yeah, and that's something he's actually designing right now. But to even expand on that, those skills, I think communication is such a massive piece of it that a lot of people lose in esports, because I think as we transition into a more LAN setting, especially as we compete back when LANs do come back after COVID, whenever that is, hopefully next spring. But you never stop that communication. And, you know, you're talking about Noah setting up scrims and going over VOD review and really, you know, managing the team. Those skills are inherent that, you know, not many people that are passionate in esports can't pursue because they don't have a platform to pursue it on, right? You had the high school esports league, which is awesome. So you were able to like, okay, let's get together, let's practice, let's scrim, let's go back, let's figure out what we did wrong, let's change our strat a little bit, change the team kind of structure around if we need to, and then go and play, right? And you see that in football, you see that in baseball, you see that in basketball, but in esports, it's, I say, 10 times even more in depth because the games are more in depth because they're virtual, so they can simulate more. You know, there's no magic in real life, something that I always say. And that level of communication has to be heightened, right? And I had a really good analogy put about this by the director of the esports program at Oklahoma University. He said basically on the lines that there's only one other place in the entire world where you see this level of communication, real-time thinking, real-time communications, problem solving, critical thinking, and advanced strategic behavior, and it's high tier military operations, right? Green Berets, Navy SEALs. They're the only other place in the entire world where you see this. But so many kids lose out on that because it's not that they don't get uninterested. It's they don't have a platform to expand upon it, right?
Yeah.
You know, imagine if they had the same platform that the pros have, right? Where a dedicated scrim schedule, a dedicated practice time, dedicated coach to help them through this entire process, and then a place to go and play and compete against rival schools or your peers in that same age range to win championships. And all of a sudden you start to see this snowball effect where it's like, wow, they can take these skills, expand upon them, and then apply them for long-term success, whether that's playing professionally or not. You know, we always say that, you know, realistically going pro is extremely difficult, but take the skills that you're developing that I just, you know, went on a tangent about for 5 minutes and apply them to the workforce in the esports industry, right? Go become a caster, a producer, a streamer, a content creator, go work in graphic design, go work in music, right? Music's a massive integral part within the games and within the production, right? Good music is what makes or breaks events and makes or breaks, especially campaign style games. So there's so much you can do with it that I'm super excited to see these platforms start to happen so these kids can develop at an earlier stage so they take this great little portfolio and then apply it constructively.
I've been so impressed with Noah, particularly when, you know, I get to see a different side of Noah when he's playing a game. And I've told him this a couple times because when I'm a dad, so I will let me know when you're playing. You know, I'll come up, particularly if it's a, okay. Well, let's just use this for example, right? There's a difference between me going and watching Noah grind, you know, go and just play up against who knows what. No, Dad, I've got a competition tonight.
Yep.
Oh, I'm there.
Yep.
You know, I mean, Noah could say, hey, I'm going to go play. Okay, enjoy playing Rocket League. No, I've got a competition. I'm there.
Yep.
You know, so that's going to be huge for parents to realize there's a competition where there's some skin in the game that their child cares about. You know, that's true whether they're 18 or 12. I'm there, right? At least I try to be. They like to play at like midnight sometimes. That doesn't
Sometimes.
Doesn't always. Wait, what? I thought the internet went off at midnight.
It's 1 a.m. It's 1 a.m. It's 1 a.m.
Oh, okay. COVID has really messed up our whole schedule of life, I think.
Yep.
But that to stand behind Noah, I watch him and I'll be like, who is this kid? He doesn't communicate like this with us. So where's this communication coming from? And that's just it. It's given him an arena. And I have been so impressed. And we even, we bring them all over when they play. Not always, but oftentimes we try to get all three of them when they play against a team. But just to listen to them chat about where they're going and how they're getting there, and the Rocket League field is consistently moving. Yeah, you've got your area or how you're going to cover, or I guess that's up to they can talk to you how they play.
Yeah.
I know in football.
Carry me.
In football, you know, they've got a playbook and they follow the playbook and you run your post and you do these things and that's how you play the game and, you know, you get open. It's a consistently moving field. And one of the biggest frustrations, man, he just stole my boost. And, you know, so now you have to immediately think, okay, what am I going to do next?
Yep.
And they're shouting this out to each other, you know, I've got the back, I'm going here, I'm covering, and it's just like, and they're getting all this stimulus while they're playing the game. I have sat there and just said, you know, who is this Noah sometimes?
Yeah.
So it has been great to see all those skills you're talking about come to play here.
And that's the exact use case for exactly why we're building a lot of these programs, right? And exactly why we do things like the high school league, because there are so many skills and things that you can develop from competing in esports in general, whether it's like at a super amateur level or at the collegiate level or even at the pro level, that a lot of our push is like helping parents and educators and people at older generations understand, like, hey, a lot of the things that you want your child to learn can be developed through something as simple as car soccer, right? And there are plenty of other...
Which the child is already invested in.
Right.
So all you're doing is saying, I support you.
Reinforcement, yeah.
Yep.
It's positive reinforcement, and we all know that works better than negative reinforcement, right? I mean, and like it's so interesting for me because I was a student athlete, so I played baseball for 15 years. I played soccer for 10 of those years. Ran track. I mean, I was very much involved in the athletics, and so much of why I was a good competitor in real life sports is what made me a good competitor and want to compete in esports in general. My game was actually Halo. That's where I got my competitive start with Halo 3. And it's the same thing. It's immediately transferable, especially if you're dealing with like such tight-knit teams like a team of 3 or a team of 4 where you don't have like 11 players on a baseball field or 11 players on a football field. There's even more level of communication because each one individual person now has more responsibility than somebody who's just a first baseman or just a pitcher or just a goalie in soccer. Or like even in League of Legends, which is this like hyper complex, 300 moving pieces esport.
Wait, you don't just send your guy down the field?
No, not quite.
Is that why I keep losing at that one?
It's
too?
it's a little bit more in depth than car soccer. No controllers on that one. If you could figure out how to play League on a controller, that'd be impressive. But it is one of those things where, it's like you said, it's the problem solving, it's the communication, it's the leadership, it's the tactics and the strategy and all these things that, I know when I was in high school are like stressed on so hard. Like you got to learn critical thinking skills. And Rocket League has that, right? You have to learn effective communication. Rocket League has that. You have to learn how to be a good teammate and a good part of a team and how to work in groups and cooperation. Yeah. Rocket League has that. And not only just Rocket League, but esports as a whole.
I'm interested. As you were talking, I was thinking this through. If you can answer on the up and up without being divisive with any of your past teammates, you just went through a kind of rigorous trial to get onto the Winthrop team. How was it like, switching out with different players and that communication? How did that work for you?
Yeah, some people were definitely more talkative, and some people were more laid back, just doing their own thing, and switching out every once in a while. And when I was on the sidelines watching the rest of the team play, it was definitely more of okay, so I know who's calling out what and what people usually don't call out. So what I'm focused on is Day, which is one of the teammates that I have on Winthrop, is making specific call outs, and he doesn't call out some stuff. So then I'm focused on, okay, I'm going to call out what he sometimes forgets, in quotes, to call out to make sure that we still have this rotation going and that we can successfully win the game.
Yeah. That's such real life applicable skill, right? Yep. I mean, to a T. I have nothing even to follow that up because that's a perfect encapsulation of literally any workplace I've ever been in is you want employees, not only just teammates, but you want employees that you work with to do that exact same thing. It's I recognize that's why, him and I have been working side by side on a lot of the development, and he picks up in a lot of ways where I leave off, and I do the same for him, because we have that different way of thinking as does everybody else, but
with the same focused vision.
Exactly.
We complement each other extremely well.
Exactly.
That's why we're in here almost all waking hours of the day.
Yeah, and part of that comes from things we've learned in esports, and so that's exactly why you have that ability, is because you've had this reinforcement for the last couple of years of what it means to compete at that level and what that looks like, and that's the whole point. I don't know. It's just perfect encapsulation.
So, not to wrap up, but to get back to your original question, I think being able to have events that students can come and play, middle school, even elementary school, if they've got the passion to come and play at, is what's going to get parents on board to start to see that this is something that they can do and have a long-term goal of, just like playing baseball or soccer or anything else, maybe they want to do it in college, maybe they don't. But right now, it's something that's engaging them and they're competing at. So having those events, I think, is something that would be super helpful. And then, of course, whatever parents usually want, they got to bring that to the school boards and say, this is an arena that we are not marketing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. School boards, we need to get on board and we need to see what we can do. Change takes time, but as we've all seen, as we've all been sheltered, sent home, unable to meet in person, esports can continue.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for lack of better words, we are all branded in the sense that, Fort Mill High School wants to be known for something. In fact, they're known for a lot of good stuff. I know a ton about the band and all the state championships that they've won, and that's what high schools do. They tout the accomplishments they've done.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that people could rally behind.
Absolutely.
And they could rally around it now and not feel like they're missing out because we can't meet together. And I think that's the other huge aspect. And you guys have touched on this quite a bit. So definitely having those competitions so that parents could see it, so that they can bring it to the schools and say, this is important. We need to do this. But we've kind of touched on it and danced around it, but I think it's so important. The casting, Twitch in particular, right? The fact that it is being streamed and all that goes into that. So, you would hope that a high school program and a middle school program isn't just about playing the game, but understanding, and it's a lot of what I know you guys do. You want people to
that holistic approach.
Yes.
Cast, produce, stream.
Because you may not make it, but if you understand the game, you can, announce the game. You could talk about it. You could say, "Wow, I've done that trick," or "I've done that."
able make the game, level design, graphical design, music.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that goes into making that esports event what it is. That if you're not the best player in the world, or Rocket League's top 24 in the region, is that pro cutoff. But you can be an active part of the community and still pursue your passions and wake up every day like I don't consider what I do work, because I wake up every day and like I want to go and create these programs and develop these programs and then teach the programs.
Yeah,
I mean, you can look at I don't know if you're familiar with who this is, Golden Boy, the caster. So I mean, he's casted most major like esports events. I know he's done Rocket League, he's done Halo, he's done Call of Duty, he's done League of Legends, Rainbow Six, Valorant. Yep. He was one of the main casters for the Valorant release when they did their first initial invitational tournament for that, along with Puckett, which is another old Halo caster, which again just makes my heart so happy. But Golden Boy, when he does his own personal streams, 80, 90, 100 people maybe in his stream, usually hardly anybody. He's not very good. He's past his like competition prime, but he is probably the most well-known caster in all of esports in general. Yep. And he the reason he's so loved is because his whole MO is, I get to do this. This is the greatest thing I've ever done. Look at all these things that like video games and esports have done for me. I want to help do that for other people. And he does every major event, and he's one of the best to do it, hands down. And it has nothing to do with how good he is. It has nothing to do with like his ability to like, shoot people in Valorant or score goals in Rocket League. It has everything to do with how passionate he is and that he was able to find his lane and do that thing. Yeah. And it took him until he was in his 20s to figure that out. And so much of what we're building is trying to make sure that people don't have to wait until they're 20-something to figure that out.
Yep.
Right? Like imagine like if you had the opportunities you had right now with Rocket League, or even just the past year and a half. Like we'll just take that segment of time and imagine if you had that in 8th grade, 4 years ago. Imagine where you'd be now. You'd probably already
might have saved us a little bit of trouble during school. That's all I'm going to say.
And kind of going off that, I do have a question for you, Noah.
Sure.
Is looking towards the future. Obviously, you said your goal is to become a pro. Obviously, full, number one fans and stay plugged in, in that inaugural high school league that we put on. But say you go pro and your last 3 or 4 years, right, which is about the average range, and that's a whole other issue in itself. But what do you want to do after those 3 or 4 years? Do you want to stay in the esports industry? Like, where would you see yourself end up, by about 30, right? After you're past your competitive prime, you accomplished a bunch. How would you want to continue your career in different avenues in the esports space? Like, what sparks that interest?
Definitely becoming a caster has been like a major interest as well.
Yeah.
Because like watching them just talk about the game, like I know some of them aren't even that great to say, but I know that most of them are really passionate about the game, and like just you can tell in their voices that they love watching these people play, and they're like getting to cast them and like just to see them play every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like an amazing thing to do. And if casting doesn't work out or something like that, then like when I go to teach for like a band director, when I get a job, then making like a league at the school that I'm working at would also be an interest.
A little bit of everything. I love it. I love it.
So all the right answers.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
You did some research prior to this.
Actually, he hadn't.
No, and I love that, and you can tell because I think you just get excited talking about it, and like you can tell, and again, you were one of our competitors in that high school league, and obviously you guys came in second place. Myers Park obviously is a very, very good team,
Very good player.
But as you guys did,
One very
good team, good
player.
team, good
And
team.
good team. They're all good.
we're not throwing any shade.
Not throwing shade,
They
but
just had to cover one player more than the other.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was a good team, but Kaz kind of
When one player needs
won
3
them.
people defending him, it kind of
Yeah.
It then opens up the goal.
Exactly.
But no, nonetheless, I mean, it is good to hear you talk about this because I think there's a lot of kids out there like you that are either around your same age or much, much younger than you that have that passion, but don't necessarily have the parental support, the educational support.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of resources out there for them. There's, they didn't have a Queen City Rocket League Invitational and a high school league to compete in. So, I guess this is a question for both of you in a sense. But when you think about like where the things that have contributed most to like your success right now in esports and the things that have given you the best opportunity for success right now and the things that you've seen that he's grown in the most areas in, what would you say is probably like, if you were to look back like 5 years and go be like, I wish I knew this, like the things that you know now that you wish you knew 5 years ago in relation to your career as an esports competitor?
That I needed a PC. Because when I switched
Yeah.
over from Xbox to PC, I think on Xbox I had just reached champ. And then I got on PC, and then like a week later, I was already champ 3. I'm like, these people aren't much better than when I was playing champ 1 in Xbox. It's just that the PC runs faster. I can run smoother. I can play faster. I can play smoother because it allows me to do so. So just the Xbox was holding me back. And when I got a PC, I realized that this is like a whole new area.
So having the right tool is
yeah.
definitely one, and that tool is more than just the PC. I mean, I did my research, made sure we had a screen that had the right refresh rate.
Yep.
So and part of this was the conversation. I'm like, Noah, what do we need to know? So it wasn't Dad's going over here going to spend a couple grand. It was a conversation together to say, help me understand.
Yep.
What is it that you need? Oh, I know we can buy a Max computer, but what else? It's more than that.
For sure.
Yep. There's very targeted technicalities in the hardware and software that you need to address. I think even like, having a program in Spin that is dedicated to that helps so much, especially, for parents that aren't, you're very technologically savvy, right? Even if it's in the Mac space, it's still like you understand technology, you understand how to read
That's just
it.
what I prefer. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But even beyond the Mac, like having that level of expertise within technology itself is so important. But so many parents don't have that, or they can function a laptop, but then you say, "Hey, I need a gaming PC with these specs,"
Yeah,
and they're like,
I don't think parents get that aspect, right? It's like, no, I got your Chromebook. You're good to go. You can you can get on Google Classroom. What else do you need? Minecraft doesn't even work on a Chromebook.
Exactly.
So I guess same question to you. What are the things that you wish you knew as a parent or even as an educator 5 years ago that you know now that would have maybe helped you set your kids up for success or provide your students with some more tools?
Did a college even exist?
What's that?
Did esports college leagues exist 5 years ago?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Barely. They were there,
Barely.
but they
A little
existed.
bit.
Okay, so
Pro esports have been around for 15, 16 years now.
and that's a problem that we don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so something I guess I wish I knew was my children wasting time on their computers doesn't have to be that way, right? And they're not. Now, they could be. And I did mention Minecraft. We used to sit around and play Minecraft together. One of my favorite things was to let's go hardcore till one of us died, and then it was no fun anymore because then we're playing by ourselves.
Yep.
Because that ran on a Macintosh. So at any rate, doesn't it run in 64 though? I like the big blocks. But anyhow, so I think just realizing that this isn't a game. Yeah, it is a game, but getting more invested in seeing where it can go.
Yep.
When your kid plays baseball and he's a superstar, he's got someplace to go. When he can throw a football like nobody else, he's got a chance. Slim, let's be honest, pros, no matter what sport, it's a small thing.
Minuscule, yeah.
Music, you can shred on a guitar. Awesome. Or you could write poetry. Great. We've got places to put all these things. But, we kind of, that's just a game. Not realizing, I think, as a parent, until seeing the big event, which was season 16, I think, right, of Rocket League?
Of like the game was 13, but then It was like RLCS season, I think it was 7 or 8.
Okay, so that had been going on for 8 years. So at that point, Noah was 10 when it started, right? Or even 9. To have been introduced to that sooner, which again comes to being in competition sooner.
Yep.
To realize that, wow, there are schools that do offer scholarships, no guarantees. There are schools that do offer scholarships to this. This could open some doors.
Mhm.
And what I've really enjoyed for Noah has loved band. I have loved to see his passion in music, but I've also enjoyed seeing his passion here,
Yep.
which is a smaller, again, when I say band, I'm talking high school marching band. So yeah, you are one part of a huge machine. And yeah, if you step out of line, literally, it shows.
Yep.
But when you're just the 3 of you, a lot hangs on what you're doing.
Mhm.
If you're just in a squad in another type of game, a lot hangs on how you guys move together.
Mhm.
So being involved sooner with those competitions, I know I keep going back to that, but as I start to realize maybe what's the biggest thing that we can do is have organized play earlier for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very good first step. But unfortunately, I think we are running out of time. We've been going for about an hour now. So I think we've covered a ton of fantastic topics, and I'm super excited to implement these ideas that we are discussing about. And really, unfortunately, a little too late for you, Noah. But that next generation, I think, is going to be super excited in the Charlotte area. And then as we expand to, really grasp the platforms we're creating.
And isn't it cool? You talk about the next generation, right? Noah's already talking about that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's saying this is, I'm not done. I want to make sure I influence when my time is done, this next generation, because who knows, what VR sports we're going to be playing.
Exactly. Who knows what esports was like in 5 years? Heck, you might come
Rocket
work
League
for
on
us.
VR.
Rocket, we've already
Rocket League
tried
on
it.
VR. Yeah, I don't know. VR is interesting though. That's going to be very interesting how that affects esports. That's going to be crazy. But
I think I saw it. It was Tron Legacy. Yeah.
yeah. Interesting, maybe. But yeah, absolutely fantastic talks to all the viewers and listeners. Thanks for staying the entire time. Stay healthy and stay happy out there in the current pandemics, and y'all as well.
Thanks for
Making
having
sure that you take care of yourselves and your loved ones. And also plug yourselves real fast. You guys have Twitter, social media, Twitch.
Yeah, at most everything, I'm murmur_RL with 2 U's.
Awesome. There we
Sweet.
go.
I go by Technology Tim with a Y. Not the whole thing, but it's Technology Tim, and Tim is spelled with a Y, T-Y-M.
It took me a while to find that yesterday, to be completely honest with you. I was like, there's nobody. He's not here.
No, I do. But, I mean, you can follow me, Technology Tim, T-Y-M. So Technology T-Y-M. I think I took that from some movie. Can't remember.
I dig it.
It can go both ways. It could also be Technology Time, but spelled with a Y.
Interesting little dilemma there.
Yeah.
I think he did it on
Technology time.
purpose.
Yeah.
Nice.
We'll see what comes out of that. But once again, thank everybody for checking in. Thank y'all for participating. And ultimately, stay plugged in.